I always used to watch him and be like, why is he celebrating like that?
The knee slide was too much, so like...
It's good to find a level that's too much.
I stand by it. If you whoop on a rugby pitch, it should be a penalty. If an English team does win it in the next 5 years, something's gone wrong with the other teams.
No English team will win the European Cup for the next 5 years. Discuss.
I'll go first. That competition is brilliant. The European Cup is one of the best competitions you can ever play in. But the disparity between squad depths and wage caps, look at the French leagues, they're operating with like £30 million wage caps against a 6 or a 7 million over in England. Irish teams as well. I'd say the Irish teams and the French teams, and to be fair, the whole of the URC doesn't have a wage cap. It's going to be really hard for an English team to break that mould and beat one of these superpowers, because you are seeing the last few years the same teams are in the semi-finals, are winning the thing. Having said that, I caveat it by Quins and Northampton last year, we managed to both get ourselves to a semi-final. Nearly got there. That's the key thing, nearly. I think you'll have to play incredibly well, a 10 out of 10 performance against a Toulouse or a La Rochelle, if you were to beat one of them, I think, and win it. So I personally, at the moment, can't see it happening for a few years.
I certainly agree with the disparity. There's two things for me. There's firstly, everyone can have their day. I think you've just got to get out your group and then you can have your day. You get out your group, you get lucky with someone having an off season. Like we saw, and I don't want to say Northampton deserve it, but what do they give? They had the Bulls at home and we played the Bulls at their place. That is a completely different team to playing them at Franklin's Gardens. And then Dees is right. Like you've only got to beat a Toulouse over 80 minutes. You've only got to beat a La Rochelle, which teams have done. You nearly beat Bordeaux. You beat Bordeaux. You beat Bordeaux, a team that put 1,000 on us that season. So I think that's firstly. And secondly, I'm seeing some of these young guys coming through. And like, what are we, world champions twice from the bounce now and under 20s? Like, you only need a couple of them at the same club. I don't want to say like they're going to fix it right away, but in 5 years, you never know where the game's going to be at. Everyone's saying the Premiership's getting better. I think the product's as good as it's been. Let's see. I think I wouldn't strongly disagree. I think there's a good chance someone's going to have a run in the next 5 years.
I think the idea of what Dee's talking about, the disparity, those people coming through, we keep losing our top. Is that just going to keep being the same level though? We bring through brilliant players, we lose our top
couple,
players to go off to France.
Yeah, it's a problem. It's like it feels like it requires like a real, and I mean, Saracens had that for a good while, where your Brad Barrett's, Richard Wigglesworth's, Chris Wiles's, Alex Goods, they all could have, I'm sure they all had mental offers to go to France, and they stuck around because they probably saw there was a good chance of winning things, but also they just need, you need to be tied to home, and if that's home for you, then it's going to take a lot of luck, but 5 years ago I was 21 and things were very different back then, so let's see.
If an English team does win it in the next 5 years, something's gone wrong with the other teams. Because like Leinster, look at Leinster at the moment.
Yeah,
it's the Ireland team with
they only play their best team in Europe.
We talked a lot off camera earlier. This is another debatable. Is the Leinster team better than the Irish team at the moment? Which is mental when you think about it, but it could well be because. Who's got RJ Snowman and Geordie Barrett?
Three stoops.
Slimani, honestly.
He's just operating.
It's three superstars, isn't it?
It's mad. So we shouldn't be beating them. Which then every now and then an English team does pick up a big scalp, which is amazing. But can you pull out 3 or 4 big scalps in a row? Because
there's another extra round this year, isn't there? So that's another issue for an English team.
Yeah,
you got to back it up four times. Which again, you can do if it almost takes an English team to be like, we're going to sack the league off for these 4 games, and that's never going to happen. But it's going to take that school of thought to do something special.
Done it early this year, haven't they?
Sly.
Can't comment.
Disagree.
What? Disagree. Such a nice guy. Fans are wrong to hate in-game over celebrations. Now, I'm not sure where this has come from. Fans are wrong to hate in-game over celebrations. Make your selections.
I'd probably just have to go there. Yeah. I think from my perspective, there's obviously levels. There's levels to like how much you should celebrate certain things, and we obviously can mention whatever you want to mention. But again, I don't want to say the uneducated. What people don't realise is what it gives your players, what it gives your teammates. There are moments where you're right up against it, and something happens through luck, genius, a wrong decision, whatever. And you have to try and create a bit of momentum. And if it was like a ghost town, and when we get these things, imagine the effect that would have on everyone else. Like, I've infamously taken it upon myself to be quite positive about most things. So, and I think the value it gives people. A big thing at Sarries is we listen to games. Sometimes if Mark really likes the energy from a performance, we'll listen. So he will say there's no footage, but he'll say, what are you hearing here? And it's like some of the stuff you hear is bonkers, but it's so infectious. It only takes one person to do it. Then Billy's doing it. Then someone else is doing it. That was when we were at our best. And yeah, I think the value of it is you can't put a value on how much it gives people.
See, what I would say on it all is when you Sarries boys in your pomp, right? Because they were so good. That was the annoying thing. When they were not so good, well, not so good now, but not as good as they used to be. But when the whoop, I stand by it. If you whoop on a rugby pitch, I think it should be a penalty. They should ban whooping. You hear it first.
There's a lot of whooping.
There's a lot of whooping, but it's so annoying because there's nothing you can do about it. Like they win a scrum penalty, and Riggsy. I like playing with you now. I like what I did for England for that short period of time. I loved it. When you're not playing and you're playing against it, you hate it. When you're playing with it, it does exactly what he says. It gives you energy. And I always used to watch him and be like, why is he celebrating like that so much? But you can see what it did for the team. But I will stand by the fact I want whooping banned.
I think whooping is too much, and I don't think my voice allows me to whoop.
He's not a whooper.
I'm not a whooper.
Ben is not a whooper. But some of his comrades.
Yeah, I was going to say, any names that spring to mind when you think about whooping?
Some of his comrades will come in with a whoop every now and then.
You never catch me whooping.
There's a couple of whoopers though, isn't there, in that pack?
I'm not here to drop names.
But you have got a good.
I've got one of the great fist pumps of our time. Yeah.
There was the famous
The knee slide was too much. So like
it's good to find a level that's too much, isn't it?
So, like, let's actually put some context on this. And I've said this in the paper, but it's actually nice to actually have my face to the clip. I don't know if you've got the clip. Ireland warm-up game. We're getting absolutely hosed.
It's a warm-up game.
It's a warm-up game. We're 5 meters from our line. We're so up against it, and they throw a not straight, which again was quite dubious. And I've kind of gone for a split stance fist pump, and my knee is completely caved in. Hence why I've gone down. I've tried to ride it out by bringing the other one down as well, and then it's gone viral. And I think it's sly, but. It wasn't deliberate, and I haven't done it since. I will now that we've had this conversation. If we get one at Stad this weekend, I'll bring it back for you.
Please, the knee slide fist pump.
Yeah, on the 4G, I'll pay the price as well.
You and Tim Henman just going at each other. Who did it best, Ben Earl or Tim Henman? Let us know.
The new no-escorting law is actually worse for the game. So you can
escorting law.
Dissect that as you will. The new no-escorting law is actually worse for the game. Perhaps you could start off by giving your understanding of the new...
So for context, the new escorting law, you used to be able to put a wall effectively in front of your catcher that's going to catch the ball. So your fullback or winger should be able to claim the ball. They've now said, no, we don't want that. We want competition. So you have to allow access to the catcher to create 50-50s in the air, which in principle... I get because you were creating 50-50s, but I think, unfortunately, a consequence of that is there's way more knock-ons and there's going to be more scrums, which is going to slow the game down, which is what everyone's arguing that we don't want more of. So I think, unfortunately, it's going to have the wrong effect.
And I guess that was, that again, most things we talk about in rugby, that was the salaries thing, wasn't it? You were the best at the net, the glove, whatever you want to call it. You sort of pioneered that.
I mean, so this is 100% right. I think we've definitely seen more scrums, or at least more knock-on advantages and stuff, which, like, they're either going to have to change the rules where, like, if you knock the ball on the air, maybe it's like a play on and you're just like a free-for-all, which is fine. Secondly, like, I'm not in that position, neither's Dees, but, like, speaking to these guys that have to go and compete, it's pretty scary anyway. And now it's like, there's no protection. I could have some reckless bloke just like 110 kgs jumping up, colliding with you in the air where you've got no control. I think it's as dangerous as anything now in the game. And thirdly, I think it's flipping hard now because you have to do that much more running for like less return. You run to like try and if someone kicks the ball over your shoulder, you're herring back to try and make sure that if our boys do knock the ball on, you're there to try and tackle someone. And most of the time, like, the ball never comes your way. It just makes the game a lot more frantic, which people might enjoy, but from a player's perspective, it's really hard to get control and your footprint into a game when it's like that.
I think it's also promoting not catching the ball.
Yeah.
So the best people at the moment are just running, jumping up and whacking the ball with their hands. It's easier to do that than catch a ball because you can go higher. Simple science. So
you lose the skill of
catching. You're losing the skill and the art of chasing a high ball and catching it with two hands. Like, people are just batting the ball down now and it can go forward or backwards.
Tommy Freeman's one of the best at doing that at the moment. He's incredible.
Tom
Roebuck.
Yeah.
Tom Roebuck's been... actually, Tom Roebuck's been doing that for a long time, but now it's in vogue. Like, he's one of the best at it.
So where does this go? So is this a reaction of the lawmakers to try and make the game more entertaining? We don't want to see kick tennis. So where does this go next season? Is this one of those things that's brought in and scrapped?
Well, I think firstly, like, I don't know the lawmakers. I'm not like heavily involved in that. Rugby players and rugby coaches are so smart at like manipulating rules to their advantage. That wasn't the part of the game for me that was struggling, that was broken. And I think it's a shame that's the bit they've tweaked, because I'd say we're beginning to lose that competitive advantage that a team might have. And I don't want to say purists, but rugby fans will appreciate that there are some teams that are incredibly good in the air. If you've got Freddie Stewart, if you've got some of these incredible athletes, there's an advantage there. And you have to be able to find an advantage in the game somehow. And that is where some teams are going. I think they'll eventually revert back. I think if there should be enough feedback already, but there will soon be.
It's people like him slowing the game down, taking 10 seconds to box kick, isn't it?
They
should go from the moment you hit the floor, 5 seconds.
Yeah, I agree.
Start counting.
I agree. They are more hot on the nines now. Yeah. They are really like a lot more hot, and you can't have that guy there stood offside, which I never liked anyway.
Put you off.
They're in my way.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think they might need to keep looking at this one, because I don't think it's going to have the desired effect.
Yeah.
Fantastic game of Debatable. Thank you, chaps.